Okay guys and girls, as you can tell I'm still working out my camera angles here, but essentially here I am in my wonderful den of operation. No, I haven't dressed for the occasion. This is still lockdown. I've decided to sport my wonderful lockdown 3 hair, which is basically still a damn sight tidier than it used to be when I first started working on this channel. and lockdown sweatshirt, basically anything that happened to be clean at the time. This is going to be a slightly different recording for me because I'm actually using a better quality of sound recording device, which means that you will hopefully be able to hear with a much better quality of audio and maybe the volume will be higher. With any luck, the audio recording device will not be picking up the wonders of the tumble dryer, which I can feel roaming around and rumbling around in the background and indeed underneath me while I'm sitting here. I mean, this new house has got good construction, but there is a problem when it comes to the wonders of the washing machine and the drying machine, because the washing machine actually sends vibrations up into my chair, so when I'm working I can feel it buzzing underneath me, which is actually quite an interesting, complex experience. So what I've got here is a pack of tarot cards. I've got a cat, and the cat is trying to bully me at the moment. I'll open the door for him. And the star of the show is, of course, the cat. Because if it wasn't, this would not, of course, be the internet. But now, in order to honour the great gods of the internet, I will then show you a soft, fluffy, cuddly pussycat who's been throwing a bit of a strop recently for reasons I can't quite work out. I mean, when I first moved here, he was very cuddly, very fluffy, very loving, scented the place and made sure he snuggled up with me at night. And then after that, he sort of became the cat who walks alone when he was awarded with a special microchip cat flap, so he could then get out and get in on his own terms, rather than necessarily when I was able to actually sort of look after him. But these things happen. He's become a bit of a demanding little creature at the moment. That's what he should be, because he's a cat. He's delightfully overfed, delightfully overloved, and obviously controls the entire house and everyone who he comes across. Today I'm going to do a tarot reading. For a laugh, really. Okay? My goal is, of course, when I'm not being disturbed by big, soft, fluffy pussycats, which I will be anyway, to do these much more frequently. For those of you who don't know, this is a very standard tarot cloth. Symbolism on it's rather weird and rather interesting, because we've got the Helm of Or right in the middle. It's got the little Trinity symbol as well, which is used by both Christians and pagans. But the Helm of Or itself was not actually a specifically pagan invention. Okay, the Helm of Or, this symbol around here, actually had a lot of its ideas coming from things like the Lesser Key of Solomon and Judeo-Christian occultism, moving into Scandinavian paganism. So it's kind of like this cross-cultural thing going on there, which I think is quite fascinating. So what I thought I'd do is give you a year ahead for the year of 2021 to see what kind of things are going to come up. Now, I don't want to say that and then, hey presto, I've suddenly jinxed it and we're going to get 15 devils and death cards and the lightning struck tower all there, and there's only one of each in the deck. I mean, that would be funny if that happened. But, let's just hope it's going to be a bit more optimistic than that. And see what kind of thoughts, feelings, moods, energies and all the rest of that's going to come into this. Quite an interesting tarot deck in its own right. It's labelled as English tarot cards, okay? English tarot cards. But the word tarot isn't actually an English word. Okay, the word tarot isn't an English word. And many people thought that the origin of the word tarot could be connected to the Torah, or it could be connected, as Eliphas Levi thought, to the word rota, and therefore the wheel of the year, and similar things like that. But in fact, it could just be a reference to trumps. Okay, trump cards from the game. Because tarot was originally a game long before people had, Windows 10 technology and all that fun stuff. They would just have cards. And what they did before cards, I mean, probably just dice, bones, throwing an Anglo-Saxon's head against a brick wall and see if it's stuck, whatever, I mean. So, what we're going to do, basic 5-card reading. We'll see how it pans out. So we're dividing we'll do a 6-card reading, shall we? One for each card for about 2 months of the year, roughly speaking. And we'll just see what kind of things turn up. Okay. Ooh. So far, nothing too dramatic, which I think is interesting. But we got a few interesting things happening towards the second half of the year, which does seem to be bringing in a bit more chaos and a bit more intrigue. Right, so what on earth is it trying to tell us, and why is it trying to tell it to us? I think that's what we need to, pay attention to at the moment, and try and work out what's going on there. As we all know, the 4 suits of the tarot refer to the 4 main things in medieval life: conflict, sport, commerce, and of course social interaction. Okay? Which pip cards have we mainly got there? Suit of coins. I would say some more major economic turmoil. It's probably around the corner for the rest of this year, with a lot of forces between the West and the East rearranging themselves politically. I think you're going to start to see that happening on the news much more even than normal. And there'll probably be a bit more chaos in the currency markets as well as a result of what seems to be going on there. I would say that we got some signs of a very strong female leader coming in the very early parts of the year. So maybe that will be a female leader from Europe who's going to show a bit more influence or importance, and will try and lead a bit of a steadying hand upon the entire chaos of the rest of the world. There is this feeling of warfare as well coming out in the first half of the year, with you got your King of Swords. This King of Swords card there coming out with a very strong message associated with someone who thinks that they are in power. Okay, because a real monarch is actually like a servant of all the other political forces happening around them. But essentially, if there's this feeling of there being a male monarch there, they're someone who's trying to take control and make things their own, which doesn't necessarily seem like a very good thing. You got a Queen of Cups, you got a King of Swords. They're very different energies going on between the West and the East, and possibly a bit more issues associated with both Russia and America going on too, which I think is a bit like partially to be expected, but not necessarily all that much, because by now there should be a bit more of terms of a feeling of equilibrium. Some of the main political happenings over the past few years seem to have kind of like petered out and sort of like got themselves sorted out, but there's still of course the grassroots ramifications of various stuff happening. So I think we can still expect there'll be some turbulent times, but words will be exchanged, there will be economic difficulties, but there's also a feeling there being some kind of healing coming in there as well, which could be related to the energy of vaccination, which we're all going to be hopefully experiencing with the passage of time. Then, during the second half of the year, it's almost like the year itself has come to terms with itself, and then there's something broken, disjointed, and it's not going to be the same as 2020. Okay, it's not going to be like, oh my god, it's 2020. I don't think so. But it does feel like there's just going to be this extra feeling of tension and pressure as the second half of the year tries to bring its way in. Now, I've shuffled the cards very thoroughly, but we've also got the Fool and the Magician next to each other. Okay, they're often in sequence they are in sequence in the major arcana. Sometimes the Fool is placed at the end, sometimes at the beginning, depending upon the spiritual symbolism, the system, and what the authors, what the writers, what the artists thought it should be. But here there is a feeling of sequence, there is a feeling of moving from a time of enthusiasm but lack of knowledge to a time of, okay, we finally got some tools in place and we can start to make some bigger decisions, about what should be happening next. Remember, this is looking at the year of 2021. This is not specifically looking at England, America, Russia. This is looking at the year. Okay? So it's a question of where these sources of wisdom are coming from and what they're leading us to do. The good news is that does bring a sense of stability. That does bring a sense of we know who we are now. And I think the feeling is we're all in our own right place. Rather than feeling we're disjointed, we're disaffected, we're not being listened to, and maybe the democratic forces are going to start to realign themselves with the people again. But then towards the end of the year, a little bit more in terms of chaos. Bit of pleasure, bit of excitement, okay, but also a bit of a feeling of chaos. The Wheel of Fortune isn't always a good card because fortune itself is not necessarily a good concept. It's just a concept about something curious, something with a feeling of temptation or randomness. I mean, the Wheel of Fortune has lots of different spiritual or religious meanings, but often from the more fortune teller type aspects, it is that feeling of excitement and temptation, that sense of, step right up, try your luck. Okay. There's going to be a lot of risk, which may lead to reward, but on the other hand, it might not, and we're going to be drawn into some kind of thing at the end of the year, which I feel is not necessarily totally comfortable. It may affect a lot of us. It looks like it's not a natural disaster like COVID. It looks like it's the product of the choice of people in power. And I think that's interesting, but I also feel that 2022 may have a bit of a bitter twist to it as a result of this kind of like end of the year stuff which I'm seeing there. So we've got like a bit of a bittersweet symphony going on. Okay, checkerboard. Okay, the white and the black squares. We've got some good, some bad. We've got some light, some dark. We got. I think we've all got to work out what our positioning is in the year. I think we've all got to think carefully about who we're with, who we're allied to, and how we go through the process of creating the rest of the world from the position of the compass of our own lives. That would be my thoughts based upon this. Okay? My name's Nick. I go by the name of Nick Dutch. I am a professional tarot reader. I do readings for individuals. I can do them in parties and entertainment events, but for the most part I work online, over the internet, over the telephone. If you're lucky, I'll leave some links below. Okay? Many of the people who are calling me are asking about the deeper psychological ramifications of their romantic and relationship life. I also use runestones, pendulum dowsing, and that kind of fun stuff. And I have other more complicated esoteric interests too, some of which some of you people know about and some of which some of you people don't know about. But it's just a question of like using our contemplations during the time when you have a reading to think about your life in a different way. Okay? I'm not here to take away anyone's free will. You make your own decisions about your life, but you can use this type of conversation that you have during a reading in order to think more about what decisions you should be making. And that's really what it's all about. Okay, hope you found that interesting, entertaining. Hope the cat hasn't disturbed you too much. He never disturbs me, apart from when he wants to. Meow, 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 meow. Yeah, that's what I said. And I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now. Go on TV, millions of people out there are watching you. Well, maybe 100.